In spite of the bizarre rise of these apparently quite right-wing groups in Europe, wind and solar is still incredibly popular, and it has been displacing fossil fuels in Europe to a degree that people did not expect to happen. Hello my friends, welcome to the channel. It's great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. European wind and solar growth has displaced fossil fuel generation. And a report recently says that this number is higher than experts predicted. Wind and solar power generation in the European Union increased by 46% over the past 3 years, when the current European Commission took office to 2023, displacing 20% of the bloc's fossil fuel generation. That's a pretty damn impressive number. But if you look at 2024, this year, the rollout of wind and solar has dramatically increased in Europe, even more so than those last 3 years. Why is this important? Well, the Commission proposed a target of 45% of renewable energy sources in the overall energy mix by 2030. 45% sounds pretty, in my opinion, like a low bar. European Parliament elections are held on the 6th to the 9th of June. So they just happened. Polls show that the main pro-EU groups around the political centre, the centre-right, the centre-left, Greens and Liberals, will have a smaller majority than currently. The far-right have made gains in many countries in Europe. So all of this means that actually European wind and solar capacity has increased by 65% since 2019. Wind capacity rose 31% to 219 gigawatts in 2023. Solar capacity more than doubled to 257 gigawatts. So there's quite a lot more solar than wind. But it's not an enormous difference, but at this point in time, the deployment of solar has raced ahead. This is equivalent to installing more than 230,000 solar panels every day over the last 4 years. 230,000 solar panels every single day over the last 4 years. Kind of hard to wrap your head around that. Without this expansion, fossil fuel generation would have fallen just 1.9%, instead of falling 22%, as lower electricity demand was offset by a decrease in generation from other clean energy sources. The EU now has more homegrown wind and solar than ever, pushing both coal and gas electricity generation down to historic lows, said Sarah Brown, Europe Program Director at EMBA. The EU is now in the midst of a historic permanent shift away from reliance on fossil fuels for power. And obviously it's never going to go back. And here are some numbers for you guys. Solar and wind capacity helped push the share of total renewables in Europe to 44% in 2023 from 34% in 2019. It's predicted to hit 50% by the end of this year. So renewables will make up 50% of the EU's power. As you can see, that 2030, hitting 45% in 2030, well, it's already happened this year. So it's happened 6 years early. And the reason is not because of some sort of positive sentiment about saving the world, and nothing like that. It's simply maths. It's simply just logic. Building out renewables is far cheaper than running existing old coal and gas plants. Meanwhile, a decline in coal and gas generation has pulled the share of fossil fuel generation down to 32.5% from 40%. So guys, we're looking at historic numbers here from solar, wind and battery generation as well. Those numbers though will only grow at a record pace because this year, solar, wind and batteries are cheaper than what they were last year. Very likely the same thing will continue to happen because there's only been 1 year over the past 10 years, 2022, when solar, wind and batteries didn't decline in price versus the previous year. So we've seen astronomical declines in prices of those technologies. We have not seen any decline in the price of coal or gas over the past decade. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments.